purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is a time for public participation during the meeting as indicated in the agenda. If we'll all rise here present for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chambers, roll call.
Mr. Hilberg.
Here.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Here.
Mr. Ross. Here. Mr. Skidmore.
Here.
Ms. Pavlik.
Here.
Thank you.
I just want to make a quick comment. Just as a reminder for everybody here present and those watching at home, just please keep in mind the governor's orders when it comes to the mask mandates, that there are some exceptions to his order. I'd also like to thank the district for providing the appropriate 6 feet separation. I already had our members put their arms out and see that there is indeed 6 feet separating from everybody. So at this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the virtual meeting June 15th, the virtual special meeting July 10th, and the virtual special meeting July 13th.
I'll second.
Are there any corrections to those minutes? Okay. Hearing none. Mr. Chambers?
Ms. Pavlik.
Aye.
Mr. Ross. Aye. Mr. Hilberg.
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any additions, removals, modifications to the agenda? No? Okay. I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Mr. Chambers?
Ms. Pavlik.
Aye.
Mr. Ross. Aye. Mr. Hilberg.
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. At this time, I'll turn it over to Mr. Sable for Superintendent's Communications.
Good evening. Before I jump into my agenda items this evening, I did want to share a little bit of an update regarding the board agenda. I know that many of our community members take a look at our board agenda when we make it live. We're echoing. I know our community takes a look at our board agenda when we post it. We do ensure that we post it well before the mandated period of time, and we try and get it out on Fridays. Sometimes, though, that agenda is a continued work in progress as we're approaching the board meeting and isn't finalized necessarily until the Board of Education approves the agenda at the actual board meeting. We did have several personnel items that were originally on tonight's agenda, and the decision was made to remove those items for further conversation. Those did include the board's approval of the psychologist contract, which we are still working on, and that's why that's been removed, as well as a couple of recommendations for increases for administrators, which we feel warrants additional conversation as well. My hope is to, at some point, revisit these items. Back to school update, and this carries over right into what I was talking about in terms of administrator increases and that potential, and I recognize it's a very difficult time to give any kind of increase with the environment that we're currently in with COVID, as well as we recognize that many of our families are struggling with the economy being down and it being more difficult for people to be in jobs. One of the discussions that I've had with our board is in regards to the amount of time that our employees, I'm going to speak about all of our employees, have been putting in during these unprecedented times. If you look at our classified staff, that's our custodians, our kitchen workers, our aides. When you've seen our kitchen staff out delivering food or making food available in the community, those are all volunteer times, volunteer hours that they're putting in to support our students and to support our community. Not only is it the time that they're putting in to distribute the food, it's also the time that they put in to prepare the food for distribution. We have several committees occurring throughout the district here in July, and we have all summer. We not only have district committees, but we also have building level committees as well. We have classified staff, we have teachers, and we have administrators all participating in all of those committees. The work of the committees, again, is to try and put a system in place that is best for our students, both academically with school, as well as health-wise. We have some very difficult decisions that we need to make, and some of those decisions are way out of the parameters that I think any of us as educators have ever expected to make. I'd especially like to thank our administrative team. Our administrative team, for most of them, those who are not 12-month employees, and that's not including myself or Mr. Chambers, they've been volunteering their time throughout July to work to prepare plans for our community, for our students' return to school. And it has been a countless amount of hours that our administrators have put in. Now, it's not uncommon for principals to come in during July for interviews or for staffing reasons, but that's typically a day or two. Where this summer, we're talking weeks, we're talking many hours, and we're talking the deadlines that I've actually given them. All building level plans are to be submitted to Dr. Kwolek and myself from the buildings on August 1st. I truly appreciate our administrators' dedication to our students and to our staff, because they are leaders in this process in preparing for the fall. This is the reason why I mentioned to the board in somehow looking to compensate our administrators for all the extra time that they have put in. Most of our employees in the district are going to be receiving some sort of an increase this coming year because of their negotiated agreements and contracts. And our administrators are not on negotiated agreements, so their increases typically come or are available year to year. We have had some discussion on how to potentially compensate our administrators for all the extra work they are doing, and they've been very difficult and challenging conversations. This board is very diligent in not only wanting to be supportive of our employees and make sure that they're shown that they're valued for the work that they're doing, but they also take their responsibility to the community and to being fiscally responsible and following the expectations of what the community wants the schools to do to be a serious consideration when making these difficult decisions. So it made sense after lots of conversation that those items be removed from this agenda for further conversation. But I thought it was important to explain why those items were on the agenda and why they are no longer on the agenda, and try and continue with our open door, clear policy when we're working through these matters. Also, regarding our back to school update, I'm excited tonight because our curriculum director is going to be presenting information on the Medina Digital Academy. Before she does so, though, I would like to share some other updates in regards to our return to school plan. I can't say it enough that our return to school plan is a constant work in process. The reason why isn't because we're unprepared or because we don't know what we're doing. The reason is because we want to ensure that we've got the best plans possible in place for our students and our staff for their return to school. And one of the challenges that we face is school is still a good 5 weeks out. So we're trying to prepare and predict for what the environment's going to be in Medina County over a month down the road, which is not an easy task. That's also why our plan has multiple components to it, because we want to show flexibility as we're determining what's safe for our students and staff, while at the same time keeping academics and students' access to academics available to them in the easiest format and the best format possible. We will continue to communicate. We do recognize that oftentimes when we communicate, it generates more questions, which is good, because when we get those questions, it helps us think about the plan that we have in place and the things that we need to do to address things that maybe we haven't thought of. I'd also like to stress, if you've emailed me or any of our other administrators, we are working on responding to everybody. We've received such a high volume with questions that I just ask for patience as we move through those. And at times, we may reference people to our website, which has commonly asked questions on it. Part of our plan discussion was a potential hybrid model. In having further committee discussion, it's my feeling that at this time a hybrid model would not be in the best interest of Medina City Schools. Currently, we have the hybrid as a possible direction if the county's in red, such as we are now. But a hybrid model presents many challenges. And it's not just splitting students up into smaller groups within the schools, but it's creating a completely different and new schedule, busing routes for the school district. And you could imagine the amount of time that we need to go into doing that, as well as the potential expenses when you're talking about personnel as well as busing. So at this time, we are going to be focusing on our digital academy, our online 2.0, and our full return to school. Our full return to school is only possible with a 3-foot distance. We have approximately 7,000 students in the district, and we can't possibly do a 6-foot distance and have our students return 5 days a week. We've worked with the health department to determine the safety of a smaller distance and what that requires. And in order to have under a 6-foot distance, we must require masks. And I think the words that the health commissioner used was additional barriers when necessary or available. So it's the masks that are allowing us to come back 5 days a week with a 3-foot distance. And if you look at other districts in the county, most of us are following that 3-foot distance. However, you will see some districts returning with a 6-foot. And a common question I've gotten is, why aren't we returning with a 6-foot? The challenge we have is our size. If we were a district of 2,000 students rather than 7,000, we'd have a lot more flexibility in regards to spacing out our students or finding other avenues on how to space those students out. I know some districts are utilizing trailers that they're renting for this period of time to ensure a 6-foot distance. We don't have 3 buildings in our district. We have 10 buildings in our district, and the financial component in realistically being able to do that is just not good. I do feel confident with the 3-foot distance as long as everybody's following the guidelines that we put into place. With the start of the school year, it's important that we work with our students and our staff so that they understand what the guidelines are in school so we can keep everybody safe and learning. That's why we're looking at an adjusted start to the school year. And later on, I'm going to be recommending a district calendar for the upcoming school year with a pushback start date, which will allow us time to work with our staff prior to school starting, and then also allow for, once our students return to school, to have a soft start to the school year where just for the first week, we would bring half our students in each of the days so that we can work with them on the new parameters of being in a school the way none of us have ever been in school before. We can't just expect our students to step in and completely understand what it is to wear a mask throughout the day, what it is to have one-way hallways, one-way stairwells, drinking fountains turned off. We want to make sure they have a week where they're able to work through that, and where we can see, once we get through that week, if we need to make adjustments and what worked and what didn't work. So even as we enter into the school year, we could be looking at adjustments and modifications to our back-to-school plan, because we're going to continue to identify weaknesses in that plan and strengthen it and make adjustments so we ensure the safety of our students and staff. I know I said this at the last board meeting, but I really do encourage our community to wear face masks and follow the guidelines and protocols that are coming out of the health department. I'm sure you all know that we've been identified as a red county as of last week. I think one thing that's may have been misunderstood is in regards to how we're going to be utilizing our color system, and we are working on providing better explanation for that. If we are red for the beginning of school, as we are now, we will be returning online. So if students returning to school on Monday, we would be beginning the school year in an online format. Our goal would not be to stay online. Our goal is to get our students back into school. So that time period we would be online would be based off of the health records of the county, based off of the coloring system, as well as what's best for our students. And this is another reason why I've leaned towards eliminating that hybrid model. A big concern of mine, which I've heard from staff and parents as well, is that we're going to create an unstable environment for students in what's already unstable by having too many transitions throughout the course of the school year. Well, one way to rectify that is to limit the options, which is why I'm looking at the hybrid. The other way is that there's going to need to be some flexibility as we transition. And this is something we're working on as well. And what I mean by that is if we were red at the beginning of the year and we started online, That doesn't necessarily mean that as soon as we turn orange, we're going to bring all the students back. What we're going to have to do is have conversations and discuss when it is appropriate to bring students back so it's not too much of a disruption for them during the transition period. So these are not easy decisions. Again, we'll continue to be an open book and provide parents with information as we go through. And if we don't have the information, we'll tell you we don't have it and we'll get it for you. So please keep asking those questions. I know that I caused some confusion in regards to the Digital Academy in my video this past Friday that I wanted to clarify. And a question that we've been receiving is, will the Digital Academy be available to families all year? And the answer to that is that yes, the Digital Academy will be available to parents for the entire school year. However, in order for it to be available to parents, they must commit to the Digital Academy at the beginning of the school year, because we need student counts in order to develop the curriculum that needs to be put in place for those students. In addition, again, not knowing what kind of position we're going to be in come January, it's important to me that we provide the opportunity for our students to return face-to-face, because if there is a vaccine or things have greatly improved, I want our students back in our schools. A family can still make the decision to keep their child out of school in the Digital Academy as a Medina student at that time if they prefer that for their family. The other question I've gotten as I've explained more, or we've explained more, with the difference between Online 2.0 and the Digital Academy is that some parents, as they're receiving more information from us on what the school year may look like, that they're changing their minds. And they want to know if they already committed, can they get out of the Digital Academy? The answer to that is yes, up until the October 5th timeline. We have already removed several children from the Digital Academy where parents have changed their minds. We also, on August 5th, are going to be sending out a final commitment form. That final commitment form will only be sent out to individuals that signed up for the Digital Academy. That form must be returned for a student to be enrolled in the Digital Academy. So if a parent decides come August 5th, they don't want their child in the Digital Academy, they just don't return that form to us. If you return that form, you are committed for at least the semester. And I know there's a lot of questions about what that Digital Academy is, what it's going to look like, how it's going to provide academics for students, and that's what we're going to address today. Online 2.0 is in process. We have a leadership committee which consists of administrators, teachers that have been working diligently on that Online 2.0 plan. In addition, we're going to be meeting with our curriculum development coordinators, which are another group of teacher leaders within the district, to make sure the Online 2.0 is a solid program. Online 2.0 is not going to look like online instruction looked like this past spring. That's why we're referring to it as 2.0. We wanted to make it clear that it's not the same thing. Obviously, we were in a difficult situation this spring where we had to make quick decisions and quick adjustments, and we were all thrown into an educational environment that we've never experienced before. I personally think ultimately it's going to make us better. Sometimes it doesn't feel like that right now, though. But there's going to be a fairly structured program with Online 2.0, which will be our teachers working directly with our students teaching online. The Digital Academy is different in that students are enrolled in the Digital Academy. They're not enrolled within the regular return to school brick and mortar walls. So students that are in the Digital Academy will not switch to Online 2.0 if we need to close because things are getting bad with COVID. They will remain in the Digital Academy, which they need to do because they've already started their online coursework. And again, when we're talking about disrupting students, we don't want to disrupt their academics by having them bounce back and forth between various models. The other common question I got is, well, I thought our teachers are going to be teaching the Digital Academy. And the answer to that is our teachers will be teaching the Digital Academy whenever we can have them teach the Digital Academy. The problem is we don't have the staff and personnel. We have families opting for the Digital Academy. Last I looked, we had about 600 families in the district who signed up, which is right around the same percentage we saw on the parent survey we sent out a few months ago when we asked if you'd prefer for your child to be online learning in the fall. In order for our teachers to do it, we have to have a high enough enrollment to reassign teachers to teach the Digital Academy, because our teachers are going to be teaching in the classroom while the Digital Academy is occurring. And obviously we can't have them in two places at one time. Right now, and this could change once we get final commitment forms, but right now, by the numbers, it looks like we will most likely have our teachers running the Digital Academy at the elementary level, because we've had a high enough enrollment at the elementary level to be able to reassign staff. And that's something we're going to be working through over the course of the next several weeks. And again, I want to emphasize that that's as of today. That could change as we get into the deadline for the online learning. In terms of middle school and high school, we currently do not have the numbers to be able to do that. And we would need much higher numbers of students to do that at the middle and high school level than we need at the elementary. And the reason why is because of all the course offerings that we have at the middle school and high school level. To be able to continue to offer all of those course offerings, many of which students need for graduation, we would need an abundance of students doing the Digital Academy. The other question that's commonly been received is about co-curriculars and students' participation in co-curriculars. If they're in the Digital Academy, and why can't they participate? And this is a struggle for us. And just before this meeting, we met as a team and are going back and forth about these hard decisions that we're making, because we don't want to take opportunities away from students, but at the same time, we need to do what's right for all of our students in keeping people safe. The first reason for co-curriculars is that co-curriculars are tied to an actual class. So when students participate in a co-curricular, they're receiving a grade that's part of a class for that co-curricular. We cannot have students dually enrolled in the Digital Academy and in the brick and mortar school. One thing that we are looking at and considering is taking a look at our band. Band programs do operate a little differently. Some schools do offer them as extracurriculars. We have not made a decision. Band is not an extracurricular in Medina City schools. And the reason why it's not an extracurricular is because we have really high expectations for our music program. And having marching band as part of an actual class allows our directors to work much deeper with the curriculum with our students. Some districts do offer band as an extracurricular. That's not something I would like to see in Medina City schools long term, but we are having conversations. With other co-curriculars like debate and choir and orchestra, it's just not possible. They're different animals than the marching band. They don't have the after-school hours that marching band has in terms of rehearsals, where it would be suitable as an extracurricular. Their work happens during the school day. I've gotten the question about having students come in during the school day to participate in choir and debate and things like that. And the problem with that is we're already working under tough guidelines with 3-foot distancing and face masks, that for the health and safety of our buildings, it's not a good idea to have students coming in and out of the buildings throughout the course of the school day, which could impact the plans that we have in place and our ability to socially distance. Again, those are not easy decisions for us to make. We are continuing to have conversations, and we intend to make a decision regarding marching band prior to the end of this week, and we'll make our band parents aware of that. The last thing I want to mention before I turn it over to Mrs. Cassidy is just briefly talk about sports and athletic programming. Many of you know that our athletic teams have been back practicing in some sort of a capacity over the past month. For those of you who don't have children in athletic programs or they're not in fall programs, I want you to know that those athletics are back under strict guidelines. I thank our athletic directors for the work that they've done in implementing those guidelines, and to our coaches for enforcing them. But they do include things like masks and social distancing and limiting how large groups of students in athletics can be. It also includes daily temperature checks and symptom checks, and a responsibility on the family's end as well to ensure that we keep our students safe and healthy. Just last week, we sent out information in regards to travel and recommendations through the CDC if a family does travel to a state that's considered high risk. And we are asking our families to follow those guidelines as well, because we want to be able to continue to offer our athletic programs. And if we have illness spread amongst the team, obviously that's going to create problems for that athletic program. In terms of what the fall seasons will look like, the answer is I don't know. I actually just received a communication from the Ohio Athletic Association today stating that they don't know. They are in the process of working with the state health department in determining what the athletic season may look like. They're also reaching out to superintendents, high school principals, and athletic directors to get feedback from individual schools as well. I have no doubt that they're also watching professional sports as well as the college sports to see how they're handling things. And I'm sure that will be a model for what we do. Again, I hope I was able to clarify many of the questions. I know I've been talking a lot, but I want to make sure that we have this information out to the community, and we're doing our best to be open about it. At this time, I want to invite Mrs. Cassidy up to the podium. She's going to share detailed information about the Digital Academy, including the curriculum, which I intend to recommend to the board this evening.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm happy to be able to share with you information about our new Digital Online Academy. We are very happy to be able to offer this, as we know that parents were very interested in having an option like this. What you see on the screen before you will be sent to all parents after the board meeting, and will also be posted on our website after the board meeting as well. So first off, I want to talk about the time frame. You can see at the top it says semester-long distance learning alternative. What we really mean by that is that it is a year-long program. However, parents will only have to commit by semester. So we are going to have this opportunity available for students all year. It's just that parents only have to commit to a semester at a time. And right now we're only asking parents to commit for one semester. let's see here. Even if the school district were to move, and I think Erin already said this, move to online 2.0, we would still ask that the parents hold to their commitment and stay with the digital academy. So the academic benefits for students are for students who may have increased health risks or parents who feel uncomfortable about sending their kids to school. This is a good option for them. And because these students are still considered Medina City Schools students, they will be free of, this program will be free of charge to them. I'm going to talk more about the learning platforms when I go through the individual grade bands. But as Erin said, our elementary program will be taught through our Medina City School teachers, and our secondary program will be taught with help from our teachers, but also through Apex. If parents opt to enroll their child in the Medina Digital Online Academy, all students participating will get a district-issued Chromebook. And all special education students will also receive all specialized instruction per their IEP. As Erin said, you'll notice that there are a couple of updates. We've been working on this document, so there are a couple updates. Extracurricular activities that are normally provided to our students will be provided to our Medina Digital Online Academy students as well. Co-curriculars will not. Time expectation. Students will be required to attend virtual classroom meetings for elementary and complete all their assignments in elementary and secondary. And I'm going to go through that in more depth as we go along. Assessments. Students will be assessed online. There might be some opportunities for elementary students to work one-on-one with a teacher through Google Meets or through Google Forms or Edulastic, so those are the kind of platforms that we're looking at. For support, of course, teachers will be available to our students to answer questions at the elementary, middle, and high school levels. But we are also going to have academic counselors who are going to help work with students at the secondary level to register for classes. So students won't be on their own deciding which classes to register for. They'll have the support of their counselors. Okay, the next page is elementary. So really that should say pre-K-5 students are going to learn from their Medina City Schools teachers through Google Classroom. And we'll be using Medina City Schools curriculum. Special education students, as I said before, they will receive their special education services. We are going to have our K-5 students will be required, and I'm going to go through a schedule in a minute, but they will be required to attend virtual classroom meetings throughout the day. So there will be a schedule where students will have to log in. They'll have their entire classroom present with their teacher teaching. And there are also going to be recorded lessons that they will have to watch as well. So it's going to be a mix of what we're calling synchronous, meaning everybody together, and asynchronous, meaning they can do things on their own. I already talked a little bit about assessments where teachers may be working with students one-on-one, or they may be using an online platform such as Edulastic or Google Forms. Grading, we're going to keep grading consistent with how we do it in our face-to-face programs. So all K3 students will receive a 1, 2, or 3, indicating below benchmark, at benchmark, or exceeding benchmark. And students in grades 4 and 5 will receive letter grades for their core subjects, and then 1, 2, or 3s for their report card standards. The next page shows a sample elementary schedule, and you're going to see it's pretty structured. This is, I want to stress that this is only a sample of what a schedule will look like. However, it will be something like this. So the times may differ, but the thoughts and activities will be the same. All classrooms are going to start off at the elementary level with a morning virtual meeting where the teachers will get everybody together, talk about what their day will be like, answer any questions that they have, and maybe just do a classroom opener. 9:15 to 10:45 would be ELA. Teachers will do some of that together as a whole class. Some of it may be recorded lessons. There may be times when students have to come in small groups. But all of that will be communicated to families well ahead of time so families know when their students are expected to log in. Next would be science or social studies, so that will also be a mix of recorded lessons and virtual meetings and assignments. There will be lunchtime scheduled in there. In the afternoon, students will again have to log in for virtual meetings, and there may be some recorded lessons as well. In our Medina Online Digital Academy, we will not be offering art, music, and PE as courses for the elementary level. But students will be able to take advantage of optional activities. So we will have optional activities listed for them. Okay, next is our middle school. Our middle school and high school program look very similar, except of course for the courses that we'll be offering. So we have decided after research into the various programs that are available, we decided that what best met our needs was Apex. What we liked about it was it was the most engaging, it was the most interactive, and it offered the most opportunities for our students. And it's something that our secondary students are familiar with because we have used Apex in the past. So this coursework is self-paced and computer assessed. Our Medina City Schools teaching staff will monitor student progress and troubleshoot difficulties that they may encounter. And they will be able to help with content-specific coursework questions. So they will set up office hours where students will be able to log in and ask them questions and get help on things that they're struggling with. These may be after school as some teachers, or as these teachers will be working throughout the day. School counselors, again, I want to reiterate, they will be available to register students for their classes. So if you are unsure what your student should sign up for, your school counselor will be able to help you. So this program is scaffolded for special education and has support embedded within the courses. Language translation is available for ELL students, and we also were able to purchase tutorials. So the tutorials are built in to close gaps, so we're excited that we're able to offer that to students. They will also receive all their appropriate related service providers as designated by their IEP. Students will be required, of course, to complete their assignments in order to progress through the curriculum, as all assessments are going to be assessed through the Apex platform. And district and statewide testing will continue to be required for students. So if the state is still determining that, but if we do have statewide testing this year, all of our online students, including elementary, would be required to take that. Again, we're going to keep grading the same as it is for our regular school. So grades are going to reflect mastery of content and will be consistent with in-person grading, so students are going to receive letter grades based on their progress through the curriculum. So these are the middle school courses that we are able to offer. And I know this was one of the most frequently asked questions that I received through email was, will plus classes be offered? And we're happy to say that, yes, we will be able to offer plus classes at the middle school. So in English, 6, 7, and 8 we'll be able to offer English. In math, you can see that we'll be able to offer math for students on our regular track, students in 1-year and 2-year accelerated. The same with science. Another thing we really liked about Apex was that we were able to modify the curriculum so that it would more match our program. So that is good news for students who do enroll in the Online Digital Academy, because when they transition back to Medina City Schools, they will have covered the same standards. We are also able to modify electives for students. So 8th graders will still be able to take French and Spanish, and we will have art, music, PE, and health available for them as well in electives. High school is all the same as middle school. Again, we will offer Medina City Schools teaching staff will be there to help with questions. They will get their special education services. They will have assessments through the Apex platform, and their grades will be letter grades consistent with our district adopted grading scale. And then these are the high school courses that we will be offering. We've noted where honors will be offered. So students can sign up for English 9 or Honors English 9, English 10 or Honors English 10. We also offered various AP courses, which was another frequently asked question that I got. Will we offer AP? And yes, we are. You're going to, as you go through these courses, you're going to see that our courses are not the same as the high school. So there will be AP courses offered through our online digital academy, but there aren't as many as we're going to offer at the high school. So we were kind of limited by what Apex offered, and through our. So I want to make sure that you understand that there are more courses offered at the high school than we were able to offer through Apex, but there's still a pretty good amount. Students that sign up for AP courses will still need to cover the cost of the AP test through student fees. So that is basically our Medina Online Digital Academy. Are there any questions? Oh, I did want to say that this is our only online digital academy option, that parents who decide that they would rather go with a different online curriculum would have to do that through a charter school or through homeschooling options. That would not be a Medina City Schools.
And related to that,
curriculum.
one thing I did want to mention, I know this is a common decision that parents are trying to make in determining what's best for their child. And I would never tell a parent what's best for their child. You know better than we do. But I do want you to know that the online digital academy that we're offering, I think you'll find is very similar to what the charter schools or the digital online schools are offering. Only you're no longer a Medina City School student with all the supports and stuff that we offer as well.
So again, people who have already sent in their interest form, they are going to receive a commitment email closer to August 5th. And then once they have verified that they are committed, then we're going to ask that those people stay with the online option. Any questions?
Yeah. Just to, again, reiterate, so there are basically the three. There's the Ohio Digital Academy and or whatever online charter there is. They're not considered Medina City School students anymore, correct? So that's no sports participation?
That's correct. If you go to a charter school or an online,
Okay.
You are making the decision to completely leave exit
Okay.
Medina City
Okay.
Schools.
And then the Medina Online Academy is going to be running at the same time that the in the buildings students are. It runs tandem, correct?
That's right.
Okay,
It will be
so-
on the same calendar as the Medina City Schools.
Gotcha. So same coursework, same curriculum.
No. Mm-mm.
Uh,
The coursework will
It's gonna be
probably look different.
different. Okay.
Yeah, because it's not our coursework. At the elementary level, it might look closer because we're using our teachers in our curriculum, but Apex is a different curriculum.
Okay.
We are trying to match standards the best we can, but even that's not going to be a clean 100% match.
Gotcha. And then just to clarify, at the elementary level, if a parent still wants their child to go to the building, the elementary building, they're still going to be in building teaching, correct? Because you said that the majority of the interest was at the elementary level.
Yes, I'm sorry. There is still a 5 days a week in school option for students to attend, just like at all the other grade levels.
Okay. It just, for a little bit there, it sounded, I just wanted to clarify that because it could have been murky.
What makes it easier at the elementary is because our elementary teachers teach multiple content
Right.
areas. It's easier to reassign them and set up an online school, where at the middle school and high school, most of our teachers are specialized, so we would need many more teachers to be able to do the same thing.
Right.
So
And-
at semester, right, you're saying then they could go back to their home school. Was that your question?
And that was, again, that
Yeah.
was a next question then. So if they signed up on the Medina Online Academy for the first semester, We've reached the second semester in January, I think, is when the second
middle
semester.
of January.
If they chose to come back to the buildings, they could.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we are leaving that option open to parents for a semester change.
Now, if they went to a charter school for that first semester, can they re-enroll the second semester if they chose?
They would be considered a transfer student.
Gotcha. Okay. And last, because, and I think it was just a slip, you had mentioned an October 5th date. Did you mean August 5th when you were previously
Oh,
speaking?
yeah, I did mean August 5th. Thank you.
Just want to make sure that we all have August 5th as that deadline, because I know that that was probably the biggest concern from parents after our last meeting was the short time frame they had to decide. So I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure.
And we did that for staffing reasons.
Pardon me?
We did that for staffing reasons to make sure that we had staff available.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much for that. Is incredibly helpful. Will that be posted on the district website then?
Yes.
After the meeting?
Yes,
Okay.
Amy will have this on our district website. She made its very own page, so it's going to have its very own page.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And I'm also going to email this out to all of our parents no later than tomorrow morning.
Okay, great. And which then jogged my memory about summer work. Will the Medina Online Academy, if they do the honors, will there be summer work involved?
No, there won't be.
Okay.
So,
And then regarding summer work for those students who are coming back to the brick and mortar, yeah, it's my understanding now Blackboard is done. So to find those assignments, they need to go to medinabees.org.
that's right.
Mr.
It's on the
Cole?
high school website under summer work. Ryan put it all there for us. So thank you,
Great.
Ryan.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. Just one last thing that I wanted to mention before we move off the topic of back to school and move on with our other regular business is that David Chambers and I have had a lot of conversation over the course of the last several weeks. Both him and I are on different kinds of contracts than what other employees and administrators are in the district. And the reason for that is because the other employees work for us and we are expected to make recommendations for those employees, and we want to be unbiased in doing that. So we have separate contracts which include, may or may not include annual increases. To both of us, it's important to us that we not accept our increases heading into the school year. That we think it's important that if our building administrators and other administrators aren't getting an increase, it's important for us to have solidarity with our fellow administrators and, quite frankly, be leaders when it comes to the decisions that are being made. So I wanted to make sure the board was aware of that. The next item is tennis courts. And I want to ask Dr. Kwolek to come up and talk about our tennis courts.
Sorry, we're trying to do double duty and answer some questions and talk about tennis courts. So we're going to try to follow some safety procedures. We're going to wipe down the microphone. You make a great sound when you do that. So I want to shift gears a little bit, so we'll let people continue to answer questions and we'll get back to them. But I want to try to get people to take a breath, and we're going to switch gears and do some exciting news tonight. It's really my honor to present to Aaron, to present to the board, an action item to name the tennis courts after just an amazing person. So it was my pleasure to bring together a committee that Mr. Skidmore was on as well, that included also some amazing people. Beth Winquist, a former student here in Tennis Pro. I don't play tennis, so I don't know if I'm allowed to call her a tennis pro, but in my mind, she's a tennis pro, so I'll call her that. Jim Shields was also on the committee, Mr. Hodke, our athletic director, and Shannon Conley-Kurgan, a parent in our district, to name the tennis courts after John Kelly, who is a former teacher and coach here. So I presented Mr. Sable with a long write-up about Mr. Kelly, but I'll just hit the highlights for you guys. We have a board policy It's Board Policy 7250, and that allows us to present to you, the board, the ability to name our properties after people who meet several criteria. Mr. Kelly meets and exceeds these criteria. In our write-up, and everyone can see this on board docs, I think some of the comments made about Mr. Kelly are that he's a king among men. Just made every player feel important, feel valuable, and want to play tennis. A number of people commented on how, I think Mr. Skidmore was one of them, how they continue to play tennis because of the lessons Mr. Kelly taught them. He was also a history teacher here, and Shannon, who was a teacher here and is now an administrator in Buckeye, also commented on the fact that his materials are still used here in AP history classes. And we have an exceptional AP program here, and so that his materials so many years later are used just speaks volumes as well. I think a lot of what we talked about were that at his banquets at the end of the year, people felt like whether you were the best player on the team or the person who maybe didn't score as many points, you still came to the banquet knowing that he was going to say just as much about you and make you feel important. And I don't know that that happens enough these days. So it is my strong recommendation and the committee's strong recommendation that we name the court after John Kelly. I want to thank the individuals on the committee, but I also want to thank Miss Michelle Snyder, that's a tongue twister for me, who brought this to the board, and I know she's on. It's a little harder these days because we're virtual, but I think, Amy, she's on the call somewhere virtually. So Michelle Snyder had emailed us and asked us to bring this forward. And Rob, I don't know if you want to say anything. Rob's here virtually tonight as well, as a member of the committee. We can see him up there. Can we? No. Okay. Rob has stuff to say. Maybe he'll share with us later. You're muted, Rob. There we go. All right. Are we waiting, Ryan?
Well said, Rob.
No? Okay, we'll just move on. We'll wing it. Are you good, Rob? We'll give it another try. Okay, perfect. So thank you. So Aaron, I guess I want to present it to you to present to the board. Obviously now we can't do it justice to name the tennis courts, but at a later date we would love to have his family there and do this the right way. So thank you.
And I'll be making that recommendation to the board later on in the consent agenda. Opioid settlement. This is actually news I just learned last week. Public entities are able to receive settlement funds for the big opioid drug company lawsuits. In order to do that, we need to file paperwork to become eligible. We are in the process of completing that. Our legal advisor, Mr. Shields, as well as our district attorney, I've had communications with, and we are likely working with the city, who is also putting in for these funds in order to make that happen. There's no guarantee about what these funds may or may not be, but if we have potential funds available, we're going to try and get them. And the last discussion item I have is to move the August work session. We're currently scheduled for August 3rd. I'd like to move it to August 10th if the board's members are in agreement. The reason why I want to move it is because that's the board meeting that we have to recommend our final plan to the board, and it has to be submitted to the state by August 12th. Considering our parents' deadline to submit for the Digital Academy is until August 5th, we really could use the extra week for the board meeting.
Mr. Sable, I am definitely okay with switching the August work session to August 10th. Makes complete sense for those dates that you talked about. And I did not know, Mr. Kelly, that the tennis courts are being named after, but he sounds like an amazing individual and somebody who All of our coaching staff and teachers definitely, would be a great figure to follow in his footsteps for sure.
Hey, Valerie, can you
Yes,
hear
Rob?
me?
Yes?
Yeah, I'm sorry that my mute button, I couldn't figure it out on my device earlier. But yeah, Coach Kelly, unfortunately, I didn't play tennis in high school because I played soccer and I love soccer. But Coach Kelly, through the years, always did a summer clinic. And many people took those clinics. I think Beth Winquist, who was on the committee, was part of that clinic as well for many years. But he just had such an amazing way of working with kids and making them have a passion for tennis. And I had him. My brother Lee Skidmore had him. My sister, I think Cindy, had him at different points. And he coached on both men's and women's tennis at Medina, and I think just had an incredible career, and is such a loss for our community. And I think naming the courts in his honor is such a neat thing to do. And all you ever hear are really great stories about him. So I'm sorry I couldn't talk earlier with that. Also, the August 10th, I'll make that date work. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Any other comments? August 10th is good for the work session? Okay.
What'll happen is Mr. Chambers will send out a new notification with the new date.
Now, will that be considered a special meeting?
It'll be a rescheduled meeting. Sorry, it will be a rescheduled meeting.
So the rules that govern a special meeting do not apply. Thank you.
Okay, me.
Mr. Chambers, you're up.
Thank you. I don't have quite as much to tell as Mr. Sable. I could talk about the last fiscal year, but let me first talk about the temporary appropriations for this coming year. We are going to be revising the temporary appropriations. Our final appropriations are due in September. So between now and then, we'll be revising temporary appropriations. What you see in front of you today is two different things. We have carryover encumbrances that were pulled over from the funds that you approved back in May. And then we also have increases due to monies coming from the state and our federal government. Your student wellness and success, our auxiliary services, and the new stuff, ESSER funds. Those are your COVID funds that are coming from the state through the governor's office. And then you have your title funds, which are coming to us as we complete the applications. So if you have any questions on the temporary appropriations, if not, I'll go to our summary of our June financials. The district bank balance decreased $5.1 million in June to $73,606,000. This is $2.6 million below last year at this time. The general fund revenues were above last June by $476,000. All funding sources except for State Foundation were at an increase. As we know, State Foundation dropped by $1.5 million. General fund expenditures were above last June by $3.1 million. Personnel services, benefits, purchase services, capital outlay, and transfers and advances contributed to this increase, which relates directly to the strategic plan and to summer property improvements. The sales tax fund balance is down to $3.4 million. The district spent approximately $186,000 in June. The largest portion of expenditures was on the the high school roof, and transfer to the PI for turf replacement. The Recreation Center Capital Fund balance is up to $202,000. Ms. Pavlik should be proud. The district spent approximately $2,500, and the city reimbursed the district $5,416. The district has received $87,699 in investment income for June. The total collected for the current year is approximately $254,000 below last year at this time, but it is also approximately $123,000 above the totals collected for all of 15, 16, and 17 fiscal years. The district has a general fund true days cash estimated to be 231 days. This is down from May by 19 days and below last year by 22 days. Any questions? Thank you.
At this time, are there any board communications?
We got nothing.
Just, if I could jump in. Okay, thank you. Just want to thank Mr. Sable for the update. Again, these times that we are going through are unprecedented, probably for 100 years for us, well beyond all of our lives, because it was probably 1918 was the last time we went through things like this. So what I would say is, I know the district's doing the best it can, given the circumstances. And, you know, as we've said in other meetings, it's so important to balance the health with getting kids in classrooms. And I think from what we've seen statistically, that if kids are at home, unless they have parents that are really helping them or they're really self-motivated, they don't always do their assignments. And in other areas, you know, they weren't logging in and doing them. I think Medina probably was better than a lot of areas with that. But, and I know the governor's working hard to make sure that everybody has internet access somehow, but we're not there yet. It hasn't happened yet. But I know that there's been many efforts in the city of Medina to help people have internet when classes go online. But I guess all I'm saying is it's still this board member's preference that we get the kids into the schools. And I think that's what, it sounds like that's what the plan is here. And I also would prefer that if there's a way that people would sign up for this digital academy, that we find a way that they can still do band and debate and other things somehow. I don't know how that could be done, but I understand that there's a balance there, that we have to be as careful as we possible to follow those fine lines. But it seems like more options are always preferable to this board member, that we give opportunities to the kids. And they're the ones that are suffering in this. It's not fair for them that they've had to go through this process. And I think we need to work as hard as we can to make sure that we give them every opportunity that they are entitled to. And that's who our focus really should be on, is the kids. So I appreciate everything else, and I appreciate the delay on a couple things that we talked about earlier tonight. But I'm hoping that we make this year as special as we can for the kids and give them as many opportunities as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. I do understand what you're saying as far as the students on the participating in the Medina Online Academy, but I do understand, you know, what Mr. Sable has presented as far as if they are doing the classes online, it is for their own family reasons, health reasons. So when band is 12th period and it's actually part of the school day, I think that is where the biggest sticking point comes from on that regard. So I understand that it hasn't been an easy decision. I'd also like to commend Mr. Sable and Mr. Chambers for your integrity, your leadership, and the fact that you, what you had mentioned about your raises and not taking them for this year. It just goes to show the character that both of you gentlemen have integrity. And our district is so lucky to have both of you at the top of our ship. Thank you.
I wanted to mention that the Medina Athletics boosters are selling, as a fundraiser, reusable masks and water bottles. So if anyone, board members or community members, need masks or their Medina water bottles, the proceeds from those sales will go to your favorite sport, fall sport, and you get to select that when you check that out. That sale does end July 31st. I wanted to thank Mr. Sable and his staff for all the work that's been going on. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes that a lot of us do not see, and it's still going on in the buildings with principals and other administrators and teachers. And I thank all of them for all their hard work right now. And I also wanted to thank Mr. Sable for sending out those timely videos and communications. People had a lot of questions. They were great questions. And I think it's very important that you did get out those answers as quickly as you could. And the videos were great, so thank you for doing that. And then to echo Mr. Skidmore's concerns, we always do want to do what's best for kids. And we all know that the best place for kids is to be in school. And we need to make sure that it's safe, and a safe environment for our students and for our staff and our teachers and everyone that is in that building. And I am confident that the district is doing everything that they can to make sure that it is going to be a safe return to school for everyone. And I encourage the community to do what they need to do so that we can return to school. Because if we are in the red, we are not going to be able to get back to school. So everybody do what we need to do, wear our masks, keep our social distance, be smart, be good role models, and model good behavior for your children, please. We are all trying to do the same. And I know it's hard with kids. I've got kids too. And there's lots of things they want to do and see friends, and it's tough. So if we could all just kind of do our part, make small sacrifices now so we can get everybody back to school, that would be great. So thank you.
Val, can I add one thing? I have to echo what everybody's saying. Aaron, I want to thank you for your leadership. With you and all the way down to the last ranking employee. I mean, you guys have worked your tails off through this last few months, and it's much appreciated. And I also specifically want to thank you for making a tough decision tonight, pulling those agenda items and allowing us to have more discussion. Appreciate it, so that we can do the right thing for both our staff and our community. So thank you for that. And then the other issue, or the other item I wanted to say was, I've met Mr. Kelly several times. What an honest, humble, and genuine individual. And I think that's a great honor for the Kellys. So thank you, Chris, and your committee for that. It's wonderful.
Okay.
Yes, if it pleases the board, item number 1, Treasurer's Report. It's recommended the Board of Education approve the June 2020 Treasurer's Report. Item number 2, revised temporary appropriations. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve the revised temporary appropriations for the 2021 school year. And item number 3, a letter of arrangement. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the letter of arrangement between the Auditor of State and the Medina City School District to ensure service satisfactory to the district's audit requirements for the year ended June 30th, 2020.
I'll make a motion to approve the treasurer action items.
A second.
Any comments from the board?
Seems like we just wrapped up an audit and they're back.
Right? I think, Mr.
Yes, we
Chief.
finished the audit back in March, and now we're getting again, so.
Are you
We
going?
get audited every year for individuals out there. We get audited every year. State of Ohio comes in. We don't have a independent auditor. The state will be auditing us until I leave here, probably. So,
And this is, in the past 2 years have been 2 years of
they've been
clean
good.
audits, yes?
yes, audits have been good.
So you're going for a three-peat?
Three-peats are hard.
Yes.
Mr. Chambers, will they, I don't know if you've mentioned it, will they do a virtual audit, or are they going,
They are going to be doing a virtual audit at this point, yes. Basically, they ask for all the information. We're going to be providing it to them through either Gmail or a system that they have, and they'll audit our records that way.
gotcha.
Will this create extra work for your department as far as pulling any of that together?
No, because we pull it together for them anyhow, so
Okay.
it's just a matter of scanning everything.
Okay. I wasn't sure because if they were here in person, you just hand them the box.
That's our gap auditors, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Mrs. Busby, is there any public input on the treasure action items? No? Okay. Hearing none, Mr. Chambers?
Ms. Parkhurst,
Aye.
Mr. Ross,
Aye.
Mr. Hilberg,
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore,
Aye.
Ms. Pavlik.
Aye.
Thank you.
Back to you.
My turn. And I just have to say one more thing about back to school as I'm monitoring our parents' questions as they're coming in, but I think this is a good question. I think a couple staff had this question too about having, I think it's at 2,000, but actually more like 2,400 students exchanging classes at the high school, and how do you do that and maintain social distancing? And that's a great question. The first thing I want to say is that's one thing that our building level team is working on. So there will be more specific information in regards to that by August 1st when that team is completed. The other thing that I wanted to mention is we have worked with the health department and passing people in a hallway or in the grocery store or in the hardware store with wearing a mask, it's very low probability for the transfer of COVID. So the key, if we do have all our kids changing class at the same time, will be to teach them to keep moving and go directly to their next class, because congregating would be where the risk would come into play. But again, we're still working on that and more information coming. My first item tonight is donations. It is recommended that the Board of Education accept the following donations to the Medina City Schools. Second is a transportation resolution, and this is recommended on an annual basis. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the transportation resolution, which deems students from non-public schools and students living outside the non-public school attendance area as ineligible for transportation for the 2021 school year. And I do want to point out that this does not eliminate transportation we've historically been providing, although those are reviewed on an annual basis. Number 3, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the resolution naming Medina High School's tennis courts to the John Kelly Tennis Courts as presented by Dr. Kwolek. We have several policies to present to the board tonight for a first reading. These have already gone through a first round with our policy committee, and they are not being recommended for adoption at this time, but we are hoping after a review period that they can be. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following new revised and replacement policies and revised bylaw for a first reading. The policies will not be presented to the board for final approval and potential adoption until the regular August 2020 Board of Education meeting. One thing I do want to make sure I point out to the board is that this list of policies does include some technology and online policies, which I think are especially important considering the circumstances right now with online learning. They're not there because of the circumstances, but they're timely. Number 5 is a memorandum of understanding with the ADAM Board. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the memorandum of understanding between the Medina City School District and the Medina County Drug Addiction and Mental Health Board to provide grant funds to the Medina City Schools in the amount of $6,000 to operate the drug testing program for the period of July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 21. We've been fortunate to have the ADAM Board supporting us and have yet to pay a cent for our drug testing program. Number 6 is revised calendar for the 2021 school year. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the revised calendar for the 2021 school year. And I know I talked about this already, but just a few highlights. This new revised calendar does include a student start date of September 1st. It also provides additional days at the beginning of the school year for us to work with staff in preparing for the opening of school. The calendar does go into June because it needs to be shifted to ensure we have adequate student days. It does not increase days for staff, so staff days stay at the same number, which is important when it comes to personnel and payroll. In addition, we've noted the dates between Thanksgiving and the New Year as potential online days. And the reason for that is we just want families and staff to be prepared as we head into the flu season. If there's an increased necessity, that could be an option. We're not going to make that decision until we get closer and know what the circumstances are. Number 7, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve continuing for 1 additional year the sponsorship contract with Partner Marketing, LLC for the 2021 school year. This contract is for advertisement at the rec center, so all the advertisement that you see throughout there is associated with this marketing firm. This is a joint agreement with the city. And we do receive funds for that to help support both the district and the city with the recreation center. This contract was up for review as well as the advertisements at the recreation center and was intended to be reviewed this past year in the spring. Obviously, other circumstances prevented that from happening. So I'm recommending that we keep that contract in place for 1 more year so the committee has an opportunity to get together this year to discuss what advertising will or won't be in the future. And I do want to mention that the city did already review and approve this as well. Number 8, it is recommended that the Board of Education accept the following sponsor approvals per the City of Medina and Medina City Schools Recreation Center sponsorship program. Both of these banners are replacing banners that were not renewed. So these are not additional banners, but replacements. We have several service agreements on tonight's agenda. Number 9, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following service agreements for the 2021 school year. The first one is 180 Universal Upgrade and Transition to a 5-year contract for services offered to the Medina City School District students and staff. And this is for Read 180. This is part of our curriculum, comes through our curriculum department in supporting language arts and reading. Read 180 in particular helps many of our students who struggle with reading. The second is Huddle. This is a program through our athletic department. And I actually had to call Todd Hotke, our athletic director, to get a little more information about this one. When I played football in high school and I coached football when I was a teacher, we exchanged VHS tapes. The sports no longer do that. They have a digital platform in which they do that. And Huddle provides that platform. Huddle doesn't only provide the platform for the exchange of tapes, of game tapes. It also acts as a recruiting tool for colleges and for students to hopefully get scholarships in colleges through athletics. Much as this expense is reimbursed, one part is through our Athletic Boosters Association. The other part is through fundraising and individual athletic programs. Number 10, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following service agreements for the 2021 school year. Akron Children's Hospital, they have been providing us nursing services in the district, at least as long as I've been here. This is an increased contract. We're recommending increased nursing services in the district. With this contract, we will have nurses at all of our buildings during student hours, which in the past we have not. We have shared nursing services between buildings. I think this is especially important with the current COVID situation. The next one is Apex Learning for $62,000. This is a contract for our online learning platform for the Medina Digital Academy. It is important for the board to know that part of this is for the Digital Academy. I think it's approximately $40,000 or $45,000 of it is for the Digital Academy. The other part of it, we recommend to the board every year. We already utilize Apex in the district for credit recovery. We also use it at the Evolve Academy to cover courses that we're not able to offer in that unique environment. The Cleveland Clinic Center and Ed Alts, Educational Alternatives, those are both for special education services. And I think the board's used to seeing those on the agenda per students' IEPs. Number 11 is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following service agreements for the 2021 school year with extended school year services, if needed, for the summer of 21. So you see the following contracts these are also special ed as well and are per students IEPs. And we're already looking into next summer, which I think we all hope is going to be much more normal than the summer has been. Personnel, we have quite a bit in personnel here this evening. It is recommended that the following personnel items are approved by the Board of Education pending completion of all required documents, including background checks through our Human Resources Office. There are a few things I want to point out here. I want to congratulate Gretchen Newton. I hope you're watching. I'm recommending her as the Associate Principal at Claggett Middle School, effective August 1st. In her master's degree, I believe her undergrad as well, are from Ohio State. Gretchen has been a teacher in the district for approximately 5 years. The last 2 to 3 years, she's been serving as an administrative intern in the district, working with both Garfield and Fenn. I've had the opportunity to get to know Gretchen over the last several years. She's played important roles in the implementation of our positive behavior incentive system. She's going to be an outstanding addition to Claggett. That position is open because Jessica, who formerly was in that position, it was at the last board meeting, has been offered a head principal position at Strongsville. So she has the opportunity to advance her career. In addition, there's many co-curricular appointments on this agenda. Our curriculum development coordinators are all on here. Those are full year recommendations. These teacher leaders are vitally important, especially during these strange times we're in, with the work they do on curriculum, as well as preparing for students coming to school. With the fall athletic recommendations, all of these are per the memorandum of understanding that was approved by the board approximately a month ago. All of these contracts will be broken up into thirds based off of what happens with the athletic season or if the athletic season happens. So the coaches will get paid for their work. In addition, we have several athletic special event workers as well as substitutes and volunteers on this list. I'm happy to see so many names on here. I do admit that one concern we have is getting subs and volunteers during this period of time. So it's nice to see so many names out there, and I look forward to them working with us this coming school year. One last thing I did want to bring attention to is we do have a recommendation for our athletic department for athletic special event workers, includes our athletic directors, and what these are for is for activities that are outside of the regular athletics. So annually, we host the Ohio State Basketball Tournament, or portions of it. Those are items that the OHSAA actually pays for, so we want them to be able to get paid through the OHSAA. Even though there are employees, technically, when they're working those events, they're not doing it for us, even though our facilities are being utilized. So their work benefits the district as well as the students as well. And that's all I have for the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the superintendent's action items listed.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Mrs. Pavlik, it's Rob Skidmore here. Am I on?
Yes, you are. Go ahead.
Okay. On that transportation resolution, there's a part of that that's under administrative content. It has all the language to it. I don't know if the administration still intends that to be administrative at this point, or if they're making it live during the meeting. I don't know the answer to that, but I guess I'll comment about it. I think it should be live, but it lists the schools that are affected by the reduction in transportation: Kids Country, Ghent Academy, Northside Christian, the Nursery, Old Trail School, Royal Redeemer Lutheran School, Sacred Heart, St. Hilary Elementary, Medina Christian Academy, Half Day, and K students. We had gotten an email from Andrea Booth about this, and she sent a nice email to us yesterday. I think the whole board got it, but she has 3 children, and she's concerned about transporting them, and she had enrolled them. And I won't say which school she enrolled them in, but she enrolled them at one of the other schools. And this has an impact on her. So it doesn't go without us realizing that these things have impacts and that it affects families. And when we pass the levy, we promise certain services. It bothers me. I'm going along with this. It bothers me. We have to do it. But unfortunately, when the state pulled the rug out this year and said, hey, we're going to pull $1.5 million out of your budget, I mean, maybe some of that will be made up at some point, but it hasn't happened yet. The one thing I'll say that's in this resolution that the public can't see until it's made available, but it says, in lieu of providing transportation by school conveyance, the board hereby agrees to pay the parent or guardian of said pupil the amount determined by State Board of Education pursuant to ORC 3317.024, which amount shall in no event exceed the average transportation cost per pupil. So at least there is some funds, if I'm reading that correctly, and I hopefully Aaron or Chris would correct, or Dave would correct me if I'm not reading that in the right way, but like I say, we don't just have all these things on the agenda and just say, hey, we're just approving everything. We have to look at each one of these things. We've been talking about this for a couple weeks, and I think it was at a work session it came up or something that there would be the need to have certain types of cuts. So anyway, we're sorry for people that this affects. There's a lot of things that are happening, and unfortunately, there's some tough cuts that are being made, and we're sorry that this does have impact on families. That's it. Thank you.
Mr. Sable, do you think you could speak a little bit to Rob's? Because I think it's important to know these are schools that are outside.
Right.
All right, they're listed for particular reasons.
Yep.
Yes. Thank you.
That was an oversight in terms of the contract. It is in public content now. I made that adjustment. And yeah, this is a yearly recommendation. The schools you'll see on this list is based off of their location. And really what it comes down to is the cost of sending a bus to transport these students versus providing some sort of reimbursement for families transporting on their own. So when it's cost prohibitive, that's how schools end up on this list and are recommended each year.
And for example, Medina Christian Academy, we do transport to Medina Christian Academy. We just do not transport the half-day kindergarten students, correct?
We do transport to Medina Christian Academy. I did reach out to our transportation coordinator, Rob Travis, today, and it's my understanding that there could be some adjustments with that school's location, which could impact transportation.
Thank you.
And Aaron, we still transport St. Francis because, like Becky said, they're in our district.
They're right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I'd like to point out that I do know that Sacred Heart is in Wadsworth. Royal Redeemer, I believe, is in North Royalton. So thank you, Mrs. Parkhurst, for bringing that up, that these schools listed are outside of the Medina City School District area. I had a question. I just wanted to point out or comment that the partner marketing contract, I would have preferred to have that one-year contract, and I know we talked about that, both Dr. Kwolek and Mr. Sable and I. I understand, though, that the city approved it with an ordinance, so there's going to be a cover letter type document that partner marketing will sign to acknowledge that it is the 1 year. And I appreciate Dr. Kwolek working that out given the circumstances. And I had a question because, Aaron, we talked about it, the Apex Learning, if there was a low enrollment for that versus the 2,000 student type thing. Were you able to make any headway on that? You were going to see if they were going to...
Yep, we actually did have some conversation and discussion about potentially delaying this recommendation, just in the event that we could work on a lower contract based off of if we end up having lower enrollment. And the two things are impacting this. First of all, we've got a pretty good deal. I actually was surprised when I saw how low the contract was. I was expecting six figures. But we got a pretty good deal because of an ongoing relationship that we have with Apex Learning and being able to work this into part of our already existing contract. So what Apex has done is they've given us a discount. And in addition to that, the more students you register for enrollment, the less the per seat cost is, but you have to commit to those seats beforehand. So the cost variance between ensuring that it's available to a high level of students versus the cost savings just wasn't significant enough to hold off, and it's going to provide us with more flexibility with it being approved now, not only with student enrollment in the program, but also as Mrs. Cassidy had mentioned, one of the things we liked about Apex is that we can go in and modify classes, and we do intend to do that to ensure that we have those honors levels classes. So like I said, it is online, and students will be working primarily online, but it still has Medina flavor to it in terms of adjustments we can make to coursework or having our teachers monitoring it. But we need that extra time to work with our teachers so we can get into the system and they can start making modifications to some of the classes.
Excellent. Okay. And I know I said that was it, but again, my notes. One more question. The Medina Online Academy students, are they still going to fall under our drug testing protocol?
They do. They're still our students.
Thank you for clarifying that.
I do have one question, Mr. Sable. It's not specific to the resolution on transportation, but it is transportation related. There are some schools that are going to be starting back August 19th that we would normally have provided transportation to. Will we still provide that transportation?
We will, and I think you might be referring to the Career Center.
Correct.
Last I knew, they were still returning on August 19th. We will still be transporting those students. We're doing the best we can to work with some of the other parochial schools that are starting on different dates in order to meet their needs as well. Once the school year starts, I think it's well out there now that we're not going to be able to provide high school busing because of the limitations on the number of students we can have on a bus. But we will continue to run buses to the Career Center, and you'll still see buses at the high school for special education students as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'll ask for, I'm sorry, Mrs.
That's
Parker.
okay, I'm sorry. I was slow to the button.
No,
Um,
it's okay.
I did want to thank the administration for working out the contract with Children's Hospital. I know a lot of time and effort went into that, and I know it is an increase, but that is because we are getting increased hours in service. And I do think it's important to have professional staff nurses skilled nurses in our buildings for the entire day when we have students there. So thank you for doing that. And it is a 3-year contract, and there is no increase for those 3 years. So to have that same cost for that whole contract period is great. So thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up, Mrs. Parkhurst, because again, those nurses will be on site every hour that students are on site for the regular school day. So the district felt that that was very important given the situation. Amy, is there any public comment on the superintendent action items? No? Okay. Hearing none. Mr. Chambers?
Yes, Ms. Pavlik.
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Mr. Hilberg.
Aye.
Why do I keep saying that? Mr. Hilberg. Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore.
Aye.
Thank you.
I apologize. Before we move into public participation, I do have just a follow-up question I was thinking through. We mentioned the August 5th date for the Medina Digital Online Academy. Those who have already committed will be receiving confirmation, but people can still, if they haven't decided yet, they still have time.
That's correct. They have up until the August 5th timeline. And again, I'm going to say it again, I emphasized at the beginning, but these plans are, we're going to continue to evaluate them up until it's recommended to the board. Once it's recommended to the board, we're going to work within the parameters that we have laid out. But it is important to note that a lot of schools are still making decisions. My daughter is going to be a freshman at Miami this year, and we were just notified today that she's not going back until September, and she's supposed to go back August 8th. So, we don't want to have those kind of surprise decisions, but we're going to continue to monitor things and try and make the right decisions.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. We do have one other action item, superintendent action item.
And the last action item is a service agreement. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following service agreement for the 2021 school year. And this is for Mike Wessner to provide district-wide security for the 2021 school year. This is something that I feel we've really needed as a district. We've done a nice job, but to have a professional who's going to be able to come in and work with us on a district basis is going to be important when we're working with school security and safety from preschool all the way through the high school. Mike Wessner has been a resource officer here at the high school. Outstanding. I think we're very fortunate to be able to have him come in and continue to help us not only with security at the high school, but security across the district. Mike did retire from the Medina Police Department at the end of this past year. This contract is a service agreement, so he is not going to be an employee of Medina City Schools. He's a contracted service, and that's important to note because it impacts things like continuing the contract on an ongoing basis, benefits, all those kinds of things. I'm sorry, one last thing I wanted to mention too, we're covering the funds for the service agreement through grant funds we've received for school safety.
Excellent.
That's really important.
Yes, it is, for sure. Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve the superintendent's service agreement. I don't know what letter it is. What number is it?
H.
H. Action item H. Make a motion that we approve action item H.
I'll second.
Okay. Any additional discussion on that? I'd like to ask, will there still be an additional resource officer at the high school? I know that Mr. Wessner was the high school resource officer. He was parked here all day, every school day. Will we still have somebody in that position? And then Mr. Wessner, Officer Wessner, will be rotating throughout at all the buildings?
We will. We actually have an exchange of services with the city to provide resource officers to the district, so we will have a new resource officer at the high school.
Thank you. Okay. Any public comment on action item H? No? Hearing none. Mr. Chambers?
Mr. Ross?
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Mr. Hilberg?
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore?
Abstain.
Ms. Pavlik?
Aye.
Thank you.
Right. We've reached the public participation portion of the meeting. Community members wishing to address the board are asked to abide by the following guidelines. Attendees shall register their intention to participate in the public portion of the meeting upon their arrival at the meeting. After those that have registered have spoken, if time allows, the board president will ask for public participation from all other attendees. Please state your name, address, and affiliation. Please keep comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. No participant may speak more than once on the same topic unless all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No person may address or question board members individually. Mrs. Busby?
I've actually got them pulled up here, so I'm
Okay.
going to make a few comments. We actually, it looks like we have hundreds of questions and comments. A lot of it is dialogue. Throughout the meeting, I think Dr. Kwolek and Ms. Busby have been working to try and answer most of these questions. So I'm not sure that there's value in running through each one of these. Some things I did want to mention, though, we're not pushing any one program for the upcoming school year. We're trying to provide parents with options, and we're trying to provide parents with the best options possible. Whether it's a return to school, online 2.0, or it's the digital academy. Tonight's topic was specific to the digital academy. Just like at the last meeting, we covered in detail the full return to school. We will be providing more information, more detailed information on the online 2.0. Unfortunately, we don't have a board meeting between now and August 10th. But we are talking about putting together a video or having some sort of other online chat where we can provide that information to parents. Another big question I see up here that we repeatedly have received is regarding students' IEPs and students with disabilities. No matter which option a parent chooses, we will be providing special education services to those students as best we can under the COVID-19 parameters and beyond whenever possible. So it's important that we continue to provide services for our students. The rest of these really You guys have done a great job answering these quickly. Thank you.
May I address the board, please? I'm Michelle Snyder, and I was invited on this call because I nominated, or I had worked with Dr. Qualick in regards to naming the tennis courts after Mr. Kelly. So they were nice enough to invite me on this call, and as much as I appreciate, I just wanted to share my appreciation with all of you and let you know that I'm an alumni of Medina from a long, long time ago. And I couldn't be more prouder to say that today. Not only hearing your board meeting today and the responsibilities that you all have on your shoulders, and Dr. Qualick, and Mr. Shields as well, handling my requests as to how to put that action in motion. I think that by honoring such a great staff member from Medina High School, that during the hard days where you have to make all these COVID decisions and things like that, we can have something light and something good to talk about. We have a good story to tell in doing so. So that might make your day just a little better, because I understand the challenges you're facing. And I appreciate you taking the time during that to entertain this nomination. So I just wanted to touch base and say thank you for the invitation on this. Thank you for putting that committee together. And, for those of you who did not know Mr. Kelly, by his students, by his children, by members of the community who did know him, hopefully you'll be able to share in what he shared with all of us. And I can't thank you enough for that, because this project means a great deal to me. So again, thank you both. Thank you all very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mrs. Schneider. And again, thank you for nominating Mr. Kelly. I did not have the pleasure to know him, but he sounds like somebody that, again, just is an exemplary example of what we strive all of our students to become. That's it. Okay. At this time, the board is going to move into, I make a motion to move into executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, and compensation of a public employee or official, and to discuss specialized details of security arrangements and emergency response protocols where disclosure might reveal information that could jeopardize the district's security. Invited into the meeting will be Jim Shields, Dr. Qualick, Aaron, Dave, and the board. Thank you. There will be no action taken after the executive session. Thank you.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Pavlik,
Aye.
Mr. Hilberg,
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst,
Aye.
Mr. Ross,
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore.
Aye.
Thank you.